What is up, everybody? Welcome to the CrossFit Edwardsville Community Podcast, where we get to meet and learn from our CFE coaches. We get to learn a little bit more from our CFE local CrossFitters, and we also get to meet and learn our locally owned Glen Ed businesses and some of the characters behind them. So I'm Dallas Sampson. Great to have you all here today. I'm a presentation and digital content consultant for business owners and entrepreneurs. And if you're battling brand obscurity, I help you create clear messaging that amplifies your authority, converts more clients for you. In short, I help you communicate to succeed. And I get to talk today with the man himself, Coach G-Cell, Greg Skelly. He is from CrossFit Edwardsville, CEO, GM, one of our coaching team members. Welcome, G-Cell, to the party.
Man, looking forward to it. Part 2 of our conversation about the 2021 Noble CrossFit Games today.
Heck yeah. So in our last conversation, we got to talk about all the things we loved about CrossFit, and we went over 50 minutes. So today we're going to do, I actually think it'll be a shorter conversation when we talk about all the things we hated about the CrossFit Games, because there wasn't actually a ton, but it definitely was one of those things where it was like, there's a couple of things that as they grow, as the CrossFit Games grow more and more, there's some things to consider. So Dave Castro, if you're watching this, you shouldn't care about our opinion, but you should care about our opinion because we're two very smart men.
There's, CrossFit is a relatively new sport.
Yeah.
And we'll give CrossFit a lot of grace. There's definitely things that can be learned as they go along. They're not expecting perfection, but in this podcast, we'll give the balanced approach, because we totally nerded out all the stuff we loved in the last podcast. In this podcast, we'll jump into talking about some of the things that weren't awesome, or things that we think that could be better next time around, or even just like some of the fundamental issues or problems that can come up with the CrossFit Games. So that'll be what we talk about today.
Yeah, and obviously, I'll just go ahead and start us out, G. One of the things that, unfortunately, is still a shadow over our entire globe is this stupid pandemic, and I'll call it stupid because I'm over it. But there were quite a few athletes that we didn't get to see as part of the competition because of positive COVID testing. I mean, you know the list better than I do, but that was one of those things that just stuck out to me. Like, man, I would have loved to have seen some of these names on the field.
Yeah, so one of my all-time favorite CrossFitters, Dan Bailey, one of the OGs, former winner of the CrossFit Open, tested positive right before arriving on site to the games. He's roughly my age, a master's athlete competitor. I was really looking forward to seeing him participate and seeing what somebody at my season of life, my age, could do. Also, Carrie Pierce, who I think took second place in the world last year on the women's side. Spectacular athlete, all around great human being, also tested positive. Yeah. And then I think there was a couple of teammates of Danielle Brandon's as well.
And you saw the effect on Danielle Brandon. I mean, she crushed her events, but with Danielle having to follow the COVID protocols, and at any point could have been pulled if a positive test came back. Could have been pulled from the competition. And, it's an unfortunate side effect of where our culture is at the moment, but definitely some names and some faces that we missed this year who are top 10 contenders, really.
Kara Saunders, a new mother, Kara Saunders, she tested positive for COVID. And actually, she tested positive, but then it tested positive for the antibody. She was no longer she could not communicate, or she could not transmit, or whatever. But her cardio was so compromised that she basically withdrew from competition after everybody, like myself, watching, like, what is going on out here? Like, we thought she'd be so, like, much love, Kara. If you ever watch this, hey, we're totally behind you, support you, encourage you. Hope that you get to where all the COVID lung is behind you so you can get back to being in your winning ways. We're cheering for you.
I just had a oh shoot, I got the COVID lung pop. I'm forgetting a Zoolander moment there for a second. So obviously that's a thing about the games that we hated, but that's also a little bit out of the control. They have to follow protocols. So we get that. But there's a few other things, technical things that need to be addressed. So one of the things that we both thought was so awkward, G, right behind on the plexi wall was all the sponsorships. There was one name that stood out to us, and we're like, really?
Monster Energy drink.
What the heck?
I had to do a double take at first. I was like, am I really seeing this? Because for anybody who may not know, CrossFit has a well-established, highly, what's what I'm looking for? Adversarial relationship with Big Soda, and should, because our missions are essentially opposite. Like what soda does for the human body is effectively the opposite of what CrossFit does for the human body.
Yeah.
Here in CrossFit world, we help people to look their best, feel their best, perform their best, truly live their best lives. And Big Soda is one of those things that tends to do all the damage and hurts people's health, hurts their longevity, their quality of life. And anyway, it's been a mission, one of the long-standing missions of CrossFit, to bring it to light how damaging artificial stuff, how damaging soda and related drinks can be to a person's health.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, Monster Energy drink is owned by Coca-Cola.
Right. I think it's more that, because it caused me to actually Google Monster Energy drinks, and it's quote, not as bad.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not Fit Aid by any stretch, but it's the visual and emotional association with an energy drink with a brand like Coca-Cola that I just went, man, that just stuck out to me as something very weird and very wrong.
And I do want to try to present the most balanced approach to this possible, given that nerds like me, fitness nerds like me, we love the CrossFit Games. We appreciate it. I am not directly footing the bill for the CrossFit Games in a big way.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I get to enjoy the benefit of watching it, a professionalized live stream broadcast on the interwebs. We pay our affiliate dues out of CrossFit Energy here every year. But the CrossFit Games are a very expensive venture, and to make it viable, there have to be big name, big dollar sponsors. So from that perspective, I get it, but it really, I think I'm not the only affiliate. We're not the only affiliate. We're not the only coaches, the only CrossFitters that would say, I would have loved to see 3 or 4 smaller, on plan, healthy drink sponsors in place of the one that, to be honest, like most of us nutrition coaches would never ever encourage any of our CrossFitters to ever drink that shit.
No,
you know what I mean?
Nobody's ever said, hey, I see that you added a Monster Energy drink to your eating plan for the day. Good job, Dallas. Nobody's ever said that to me.
I will say though, like the number one greatest concern I have with the CrossFit Games, and this is, is I guess taking the bad with the good, is that there is always has been, always will be the threat of people watching the CrossFit Games and creating a psychological separation between the idea of doing CrossFit at a local affiliate and what those people are doing over there. And what I mean by that is, the Games athletes are spectacular. They're the fittest of the fit. They're the most elite of the elite. They're the 0.001%. You don't have to be able to do what they do in order to get amazing benefits in terms of how you look, feel, perform at your local CrossFit affiliate.
Yeah. I would, so I'll echo that, because we've talked about my story on this podcast in the past. Watching the CrossFit Games was what piqued my interest, but also caused a lot of anxiety around going to an actual box and checking it out. So it's like, I'm not fit enough to jump into that, so I need to go get fit at a Globo gym. Didn't happen, but I need to go get fit at a Globo gym in order to even be fit enough to walk into a CrossFit gym. And I remember dispelling that myth immediately once I got into CrossFit, going, oh, I can, there's some technique stuff I need to learn. I still need to learn, but immediately it was much more approachable. I got super inspired by watching the games over the years, by watching Froning's documentary on Netflix. Super stoked about that and just going, man, I could never attain that. But the truth is, the moment I walked into a box, I was like, oh no, this is much more approachable than the perception or the perceived distance that the games created for me as at the time, a wannabe.
Sure. Well, I think you had the right takeaway, right? Like it should be inspiring to watch these specimens of humanity.
Yeah.
But we would just love to outline for all of our viewership, all the people out there that are tuning into this broadcast, that most people that come to a CrossFit gym do so because they want to look their best, they want to feel their best, they want to perform their best, live their best lives. They're trying to be better spouses, they're trying to be better parents, they want to look and feel good about themselves.
Yeah.
They want to empower an amazing life. They're not necessarily interested in walking on their hands across parallel bars.
Right.
And not only do we recognize that, but like here, like in the trenches, the rank and file CrossFitters, people like me, like Dallas, like that's what we get out of the CrossFit experience.
Yeah.
We do some cool stuff, but really it's helping us live our best lives.
Yeah.
Dallas and I are never going to be on the CrossFit Games and don't need to be. We can get all the benefits of the program without having to do the most elite of the elite of the elite things. Right. So if there is any intimidation factor out there, like if you see the games, you're like, oh, CrossFit is definitely not for me. Well, I encourage you, give it a second look. Actually come in and see what it's like live action, because I think you'll find that what you actually have in the CrossFit gym is a lot of very relatable people doing really cool things because the coach has taught us how.
Yeah. And it's a controlled environment where the excellence of movement is the highest priority.
Absolutely.
So well, go ahead. What were you going to say, G?
I was going to say that I think that would be the number one biggest thing I like for CrossFitters take away from this podcast here today.
Well, and there was a couple other little things, and we'll just quick hit them here because we didn't want to spend too much time. Again, not a lot of hate for the CrossFit Games. We were more geeked out and amped from it than anything, but really it had to revolve around some of the production elements. And we talked about this in the last podcast episode, where watching CrossFit media take back over, quote unquote, and really own their own production was great. But there were some production elements that were missing. For me personally, there were moments where, like Dave Castro, the coordinator of the games and programmer in charge, I don't know what his official title is anymore, but
director of the CrossFit Games.
There you go. So watching him, like when he would announce what events were coming up, the feed was not always going through directly into camera. Sometimes we were picking up on Coliseum feed. And so just as a production and communication specialist, those were things that kind of bugged me. And then also I missed out. We didn't have as many of the athlete feature highlight reels or bio things. We had a couple. Medeiros on the final morning, got to see him, got to see that. I love knowing who the people are on the field, though. And that's why you saw spikes like O'Brien and Brandon. You got to see spikes on their Instagram followers because people wanted to know about them. So that would be something I would say, man, more human interest pieces in between, especially since we've got so much downtime between events. And I know that was something, G, for you, the event timing, that was another one that you weren't a fan of.
Well, we just, as a coach here at CFE, trying to plan watch parties at CFE. We're trying to give our CrossFitters the opportunity to gather and have a great time watching the games. We at no point did we have like a concrete schedule of when the individual competitors will be competing.
Yeah.
So for us, planning out games, watch parties, we're literally just making guesses. And because we didn't guess correctly,
right,
like 2 of our watch parties happened when there weren't CrossFit events happening.
Yeah.
Oops.
And there you had chilled all of that Monster Energy drink on ice for everybody too, for those parties.
I know, right? You know how much Monster I've got left over here? I'll be drinking Monster for weeks.
Oh my gosh. You know what? You should just take it down to a local school and hand it out. Another thing too, I know was, again, this is a production value thing, was the weight, like during the snatch event number 12, not having the weight graphics up, right?
Yeah, they fixed it toward the later part of the event. In the early part of the event, I was just tuning in. I had no idea what anybody was lifting. I knew they're snatching. I had no idea what the weight was because there was no information on the screen about that. And sometimes when they phased in, okay, here's the weight they're lifting, they didn't give me the name of the competitor, so I didn't know who I was watching because I don't know all the game's athletes by name.
Right.
So there's just some little details there. I'm sure that CrossFit Media will figure it out and they'll get that
100%.
piece together. If you're watching this, CrossFit Media, overall, great job. Just a couple of details you guys can touch up for next time.
Yeah, and again, knowing more of the athletes, knowing some of those production elements as you tighten them up for sure is going to help. But really for us, G, I think, and for everybody watching, the key takeaway here is we don't want, if you got to watch the games, if you got to get inspired by that, we don't want you to feel like that's unattainable fitness. We really want you to explore whether or not CrossFit is right for you. And G, if anybody's interested in learning a little bit more about us here in the Glen Carbon, Edwardsville, Maryville kind of area, how can they find us?
So if you just want to get to know and learn a little bit more about CrossFit Edwardsville and what it looks like here in our gym, Google us, read our Google reviews, find us on Facebook, read our Facebook reviews, find us on Instagram, a lot of cool photos and videos and features there. So you can be on the outside and kind of window shop. You peek in the window, get an idea of what's going on in here. Low key, no pressure. And then when you're ready to actually talk to one of us, CrossFitEdwardsville.com, set up a no sweat conversation. Love to talk to you. And that can help us to identify what does your CrossFit journey look like, perhaps starting with a first class experience here at CFE.
Yeah. So again, everybody, when you go to CrossFitEdwardsville.com, there's literally a big old button that'll show up for you to book that no sweat conversation. And it's really just discover a little bit about you, your fitness goals. And again, it's always look better, feel better, perform better is kind of our motto here at CFE that we want to do that. But yeah, CrossFitEdwardsville.com, or again, you can check us out on Instagram and Facebook at CrossFit Edwardsville. We'd love to have you come check out the community, see if it's the right fit for you. Very approachable. Obviously, there are two very fun guys who are there often, and you're looking at them right now.
At least two. There might be more.
There's a few more, I think. But G-Scale, thanks so much for having this conversation with me today, man. And I'll let you roll the graphics. But everybody, thank you for joining us. Have a championship day.
Till next time, y'all.